Hey everybody, Kevin Shortell here. I've got TJ Osterman with me as well. We're really excited to be back on the video and talking to you all. We just came back from the NoteWorthy convention. Now, for those who don't know, the NoteWorthy convention is an industry event, and we had a real high caliber attendees and professional speakers there as well. And it gave us a chance to present the Money with Meaning Fund. And we learned a lot through that process because we have a bunch of questions that we're going to get through. I don't know if we'll be able to do them all on this video or we'll chop this into a couple of videos for you. But I think all of the questions stem from the fact that people just were blown away, right? I mean, they're just like, now wait a minute. Is it because it sounds almost too good to be true because nobody else has done this in this industry the way that we're doing it with the type of fun that we have together for it. So we thought we'd slow the roll down here a little bit and make sure that you may not, those of you listening, may not have these answers to these questions off the top of the head. So I asked TJ to join me so I could pepper all the questions over in his direction. TJ, you ready?
Yeah, I am, and it's tough for me to slow down because I'm so excited, but I will promise I will slow down and clearly define everything here.
All right. So in general terms, and please, everybody, make sure you go to the website. Great job of laying everything out for you there and explaining it. So spend some time on that at MWM, Money with Meaning, MWMFund.com. One of the questions, kind of interesting, right from the top, they go, okay, so you got this big fund, but how much of an impact can it make? I mean, we teach people at such high levels, they know that for us to go in and buy in bulk, you've got to have enough capital. Can we raise, and how much money can we raise in this fund is one of the questions.
Yeah, and that's a great question. The reason why we chose a Regulation 8+ style fund is that we're able to generally solicit $50 million every 12 months.
50.
Yep, $50 million, which in our industry, Kevin, and you would agree, that's still kind of small potatoes. But that puts us up to that next level where we can actually start taking down bigger $10, $20 million pools. So it was very important for us to kind of have an institutional style capital, $100 million to be able to, create the fund that we wanted to. So $50 million every 12 months we're able to raise, and that's going to be for a 2-year time period.
Yeah, and that is enough money to move things, especially in the community reinvestment pools and things like that we're taking a look at. Yeah. It can be a big impact to get us prices that create margin, and that's what this is all about, because the next question, of course, is, okay, so if you can raise all this money and you can buy in bulk, you can buy cheaper, I can see myself as a smaller investor owning a small part of that whole portfolio, but how do these investors get paid out? How does that work?
It's a great question. What happens first off is every single month, right? MWM Fund pays their bills, right? After that, the first 10% will go to people that own shares in the fund. Then what happens is we pay out their principal back. Now, our goal is to get you your principal back as soon as possible, but that principal will still be earning that up to 10% annual yield. And then at the end is when we take our profits. So it's very important that people understand a term called compound interest. It's magical because what happens is if you're able to reinvest those dividends, right, that 1,000 or 50,000 compounded over 5 years is magical. So it's up to 10% annually return to every investor, and we make sure to hit that preferred rate first before anything else happens.
Fantastic. And, that's the incentive there, of course, is to make this work. Investors get paid first. That's a great incentive for investors like those of you watching and listening to this to get involved in this one. You've got a team of people, professional people, way above and beyond just TJ and I, that manage this and oversee this and have all the experience on there, which is great, which leads to the next thing here. And this can be broken down into a lot of different segments and questions, but let's think in the broadest terms here. What is, in your opinion here, TJ, what is the dream makeup of the type of notes that we buy? Give us percentages, give us what the overall goal, but give us a nice little tight, if we do the dream portfolio, this is about what it would consist with.
Well, I can tell you right now, our main goal is to obviously hit that preferred rate of 10% to our investors. So what we've done over the last 7 years is kind of realized from our previous fund, what's the best way to create cash flow right away? Because without cash flow, sometimes an event on like a strict non-performing loan will be, sometimes 12 months to 18 months before we realize any profit on that. So what our strategy has always been was, let's get some performing or reperforming loans in the fund right away so we can start creating cash flow. So that will essentially take those first investors that are in there, and we make sure that we have enough to hit that hurdle of 10%, right? So, what we're looking to do is really hit, let's just say mortgage pools, right? We're looking at NPLs of 30 to 50%, right, of value is what we're actually looking to buy on those. Now, those take a little bit longer, so we do pepper those in, along with REOs that we're really looking at putting those at, an owner financed play, which creates revenue also a lot quicker, and then we're able to actually sell those onto paper stack. So we're really looking at, a split of, I would say in the beginning, a little bit more performing or reperforming or slower paying. So we start that revenue creation, and then what we do is we hit our home runs with the non-performing loans where we can see 30, 40% returns, and everything kind of balances out because it's all about the preservation of that capital and how we can balance what we buy. So it's non-performing loans, but in the beginning more heavily weighted in our reperforming loans, and that's in areas all across the country right now. And then obviously the values of the REOs that we purchase and take down is going to be around $150,000, $175,000 homes and below. And the reason being is that we see a huge gap right now and a huge drive. If our goal is to, create owner financing, that big gap is unbankable people in 175,000 and below homes. So we realize we can really fill and create a product with those REOs to fill that and start creating revenue. So it's really hard. It's not really a science, but definitely the diversification is how we wrote the fund, is to be able to diversify and to strategically make sure that we're always hitting that 10%.
Great. So to help everybody at home, if you want to visualize that, if we have three columns, we got a column over here, which is performing loans. We got a column in the middle, non-performing loans. And then we got REOs over here in the beginning of the fund to get the wheels in motion, get the cash flow coming in, probably 60% on the performing column. And then maybe 30% down on the reperforming, and maybe the other 10% down on the REO. But as things progress, it'll start to increase here on the on the non-performing, because as you said, that's where your home runs are, and the cash flow one will start to come down as we start to get more of those home runs, and then the REOs will fluctuate somewhere around that 10% of the overall portfolio, give or take. Is that accurate?
That is, and an important thing you brought up before is the team behind us doing this. We have some asset managers that have been in the business for a long time, have been through the recession, and they understand what we really need to do is preserve principal investment for our investors during the next downturn when one, if it ever does, occur. So we're already kind of speculating for that and planning for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought that up, because I was heading that direction in the next question there was a lot of concern from people, at least chit chat enough to a lot of conversations going on. Are we in a recession? Are we facing another bubble here in real estate? What's going on? And how will this fund perform? You answered it a little bit. Let's zero in on that a little bit more. Recession, is this fund, I wouldn't say recession proof, but will it be able to survive and kick out the kind of returns that we're talking about if said recession does occur?
Well, to answer that, all we can really model off of is the data from the last recession, really, and look at what happened with somebody that was managing a pool of mortgage notes. Now, in the past, this has been a black box industry, not a lot of data, but we're lucky enough to have a connection, an associate of ours working with our fund that has done this through 07 and 014, in 2014. And it kind of shows what he was able to do during those downturns. So the data we have and the ability to manage it is there, and it's just different strategies with hedges and what have you. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much, but yes, we are well prepared for a downturn. And I want to say that during a downturn, we're in the non-performing debt space. You have to remember that the more non-performing debt that occurs during a downturn, people stop paying their mortgages. Those banks are, and you would say it, are very pressured to get these off of their books. They might be publicly traded banks, and the investors are like the shareholders are, get this stuff off, thus increasing our ability to buy these at a discount.
Right.
So it's, and another thing is that during a recession, things are very volatile. People are looking at their, if they're in the S&P 500, they're looking at their values going up and down every single day, especially for people that are getting close to retirement. They don't know if they could retire tomorrow or a year because they just lost 50% of their value. We're not tied to something like that. So you won't see the giant fluctuations, in value. So it's more of a dividend paying type of investment that should help you weather some storms with some solid returns, backed by something that most people understand. It's real estate.
Right. And that's the only way you can look back and say, if you have a history of a team that has gone through these recessions and they've gone through the bubbles and they've come out and done very well, by the way, one would assume they'll at least do that well or better and be better prepared. And I think the whole system has changed where it's more likely that we'll do even better than before, because not only do we have the fund experience, but the personal experience and the industry experience, which shows in difficult times, we are the solution. So what's going to happen this time, very different than the last crash in the 2000s, is the banks and the government already know they can't handle it. And a system's already in place where it comes down to entrepreneurs like you and I, like the fund, because that's really what it is. It's a company and it's an organization that knows how to handle this procedure and make it smoother, and will do really, really well throughout that. So we're well prepared within everything, good, bad. We have the team in place. And for the individual, for you listening and watching this, to be able to participate this at whatever level you can start to get into this fund, whether that's 100,000, 20,000, 50,000, or you have a small IRA account that you have for your grandchild that you want to get involved in this for as little as $200, you can do that as well. So that's all we have time for today. We're sure to put another video together for you again. So keep those questions coming in. Love to handle them for you. Love to answer them in this format. TJ, any last thoughts?
Signing out.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.